Hi, Kyle.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing so good.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for giving some of your time. I know it's
Yeah.
busy times for you at the moment. Lots of
Yeah.
stuff going on. The first question I wanted to ask you, I believe you've spent most of your life in California, right? Do you think there is something special about California that is inspiring for musicians and or artists in general? Did you ever think of moving somewhere else?
It's so funny. I was just talking to my friend Jim about that, and we were like, why do all the good bands come out of London in England?
Yeah, okay. I,
So
okay, the
opposite.
UK bands, but what
UK,
about
yeah.
the American ones?
Um, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that actually.
Hmm.
I think I just grew up here and because I grew up in Santa Barbara and LA is so close, and I think that it's easy to just hop down and have that as like a mecca for music and like the industry. Um, I don't know. I don't just to totally not answer your question at all.
No,
Like
that's okay. Do you think the weather has anything to do
the
with,
weather.
yeah, like because I mean for for people here in Europe, California has the reputation to have like perfect weather
Yeah,
always,
it's Mecca. It's
all year long.
basically just sunshine and tacos out here like all year long. Yeah, that's so funny because I was talking to Jim and the same thing. We're like maybe it's the weather out there in like London that like makes bands like Radiohead, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I don't really pay. I mean, I feel like you could do music from anywhere now.
Yeah, of course. But for instance, are there many places where you can play, for example, where you can perform? I mean,
In
maybe
California?
more, like in San Francisco or Los Angeles, maybe more than in uh, other other cities that are as big, but somewhere else in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of places to play, but I guess looking back, like the California shows for us were like never the most fun. It was always like the Texas or like New Orleans or like the UK shows or like the Europe shows or like even New York. Like those are always more fun.
Okay.
And LA is interesting because you get like a real kind of industry crowd of like people just standing there going like this,
Yeah.
being like, I could do that better, or like,
Okay.
just
So, yeah. Okay.
stuff.
Tougher
But
crowd.
yeah, I don't know. I oscillate between Santa Barbara and LA, and like Santa Barbara is kind of my haven and like creative sanctuary. And like I'm like a fucking hermit up here. So like I don't really see a lot or like go out a lot when I'm
Yeah.
here, like just up here like writing or recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you know why I'm having trouble answering this? Because like I'm like the worst Californian ever. Like I don't go to the beach, like I don't surf, like I barely go outside. So that's probably why I'm stuttering. Like I'm probably more like of a fucking like East Coaster, you know? Um, but yeah, I mean there is like LA has an energy. Like California definitely has an energy and like it's for me it's an energy of possibility. You know, like whenever I'm in LA, I'm like anything could happen. Like you can meet anybody, like you could get a call tomorrow that could change your life. Yeah, like, there's also like all the jaded bullshit and like it can be really hard to navigate,
Mhm.
but I think if you know, I think that, the older I get, the more I'm realizing like, you know, I guess we're spirit and that kind of transcends where you are. Um, but I mean, for practical things like
Yeah, yeah,
material things, that's probably
yeah,
not the best answer.
exactly. I guess that's what I
Yeah,
meant. It was like
but
maybe there are more opportunities in
yeah,
some
I think that's
places.
the, I mean, yeah, like in LA, like Nashville's amazing. Like, and I think in Nashville, like, because I thought about moving to, like Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and like, there's no musicians there,
Yeah,
so it's like I'm not gonna bump into people. But I think the cool thing about LA is like you go out to a show and like you see a bunch of people and like Nashville's like that too.
yeah,
So I think there's just like there's, I don't know about New York, but the New York probably has the energy too of just like scenes and artists and bumping into people. And I think that that's like probably the excitement in California. But it's like I don't really know, like San Francisco, I think a lot of artists moved down to LA. And I think a lot of artists from New York City moved to LA too. So I think that LA is doing like a resurgence right now in creativity.
Mm.
It's crazy. Like these fuckers got priced out of Brooklyn, so they had to move to LA because LA was so cheap, which is
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Metallica is probably the only band that moved from LA to San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, that's funny too, because like when you ask the question about California, like I don't really know where bands are from. And like that, I don't really pay attention to that a lot. So like I couldn't really tell you um
Yeah, well, yeah. As
a
an
lot.
artist, why should you? You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter to you where the band. If the band is good, the band is good. But
No, I'm like, oh, their songs are so good, but they're from Oklahoma. Oh, not gonna listen
yeah,
now.
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. And so yeah, you
Question though, I mean, you fucking stumped me.
yeah, you mentioned yeah. I know it was a weird first
No,
question,
it's a
but
good one. It's an original question.
yeah.
Um,
So you mentioned that you grew up in Santa Barbara, right?
yeah,
And you got signed on a label pretty young, 19, I believe you told me.
yeah.
Did you have to search for a label, or did you just meet the right person at the right moment?
I just sneezed and a label came out.
Yeah.
It's well, it's like it's a really interesting story because I was I think I was 19 and I dropped out of I told my parents, give me 6 months. I hated going to university. Like it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do music. So I told my parents, I was like, yo, give me 6 months to figure out a music career. And if I don't figure it out within 6 months, like I'll go back to school and finish the degree. Like I'll do what y'all want. And right at the same time, I, I didn't realize this was happening, but it's what was happening was I was having my first um, major depressive episode and anxiety episode. So I moved to a little cottage in Eagle Rock, which is next to Pasadena in LA. And I just fell apart. And I look back on that too, and I don't know, I can only speak from my experience of growing up here, but I think I was raised with the like you go to like you have to get good grades in high school and like do all these extracurricular activities so you can get a good college degree, and then like when you do that, then you can get like a good job or like something, and it's like you're always like working in preparation for the next thing to come. And then I think when I made the decision to break away from that and chase music, it all dropped away. And I had this like existential crisis of like, like who am I? What the fuck is happening? And there was nothing else to really distract me from. So like, I was like 19 going on 95 and like just ready to be dead at all times and having a really hard time and I had no vocabulary of what was happening to me because like no one in my family talked about mental health. Like I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what panic attacks were. I didn't know what depression was. So I was basically just passively suicidal that entire year. And the irony is like at the same time, like I was so hell-bent on trying to have a music career and so driven and determined that I wound up finding a manager named Sam Schulman, and he was everything I wasn't. Like he was just like driven. Well, sorry, not driven. He was firmly planted in life, and um, I remember talking to him and I was like, yo, like here's my music, here's my life. Like I trust you. Like just do whatever you want with it. And he put everything together. So it was this weird juxtaposition of like me just like completely detaching from the planet and like not feeling like I belonged, not feeling like I was deserving to be alive. And then like by the end of the 6 months, he found a co-manager, a label, an attorney. Like we put the band together.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. And like the label came about, I think he knew Braden through like a friend of a friend. And then we just set up a showcase. And it was me, I think Tony was there, and then a bass player named Brandon Brown. And we just showcased for them and they loved it. And then like I think a couple of weeks later, like we got the call that they wanted to work together. And then it was the best feeling of my life. Like, hearing from them, like they wanted to work with me and like sign me. Like that was like all I wanted as a kid.
The label is Bright Antenna, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and so first album came out. You mentioned the name Orthodox. Then you got to tour, and you got to tour with the Smashing Pumpkins in Europe, and that's where I discovered you in a French city named Lille. Something funny happened there because you were playing for like maybe 20 minutes, and then all the lights went out. In the crowd, we just thought that there was no more electricity and that everything was was going to be cancelled. Can you can you tell us what happened? Because
Yeah,
it was your kind of your fault, right?
it was all my fault. Yeah. Well, I think I brought a bottle of wine out on stage, and it was a bottle of wine and a glass of wine, and I kept pouring from the bottle into the glass, and then I think halfway through our set, the glass fell over, and it was near like a big snake,
Yep.
which is just all the cables and all
Yeah.
the electricity. So one of the like local roadies saw it and like freaked out, and he cut the power,
Yeah.
but no one knew what happened. And like we're just on stage, and I think we had like two songs left, and then like all the power cuts out. So then we just kind of like walked off stage, like wandered off, and then like I look down and I see like the wine glass spilt, and I was like, oh shit, like did I make the venue explode? Like did I break everything?
Yeah.
And then like the Pumpkins tour manager comes up and they're like, what the fuck's happening? Like guys, like what? And then they're like, are we gonna have to cancel the show? And then I was like, oh my God, we're like two shows in with these guys, and I'm about to get kicked off because like I just like wrecked one of the shows, or like I just got the entire night canceled. So there was like 5 minutes of just like back and forth and like confusion and like befuddlement.
Yeah.
And then finally like the roadie guy came over. He's like, oh, I just turned the power off. Like everything's fine. I was like, thank fucking God.
Yeah. Because it was a big place. It was a big
Yeah, it was,
venue.
and I was like, people would have been pissed.
Oh yeah.
So
When you released the second album, there's a single named Dope,
mhm.
and the video for that single is featuring some female bodybuilders, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
carrying you the entire in their in their arms, carrying you the entire song. Who came up with that idea?
Dude, it's like I was just telling a girl about this because like I was like, listen to how wild the music industry is. Like someone okayed this. Um, it was like we we were working with Keith Musil, I think that's how you say his name, and he had an idea about like a two girls softball teams like breaking out into a fight for the video.
Yeah.
And then he like did the logistics of that, and he's like, we can't get 60 people for this video, like it's out of budget. So then like I was just like, I don't know what I was doing. I'm a female bodybuilder fan, like I'm here for it. Like, and I was just like, I texted him as a joke. I was like, what if we did this? And he's like freaked out, and he's like, oh my God, let's do it. It's perfect. And then wrote some kind of like David Lynchian
Yeah.
like treatment for it. And
Yeah.
then I was like, this is not gonna fly. Like no one's gonna fuck with this. And then it like everyone was like, this is amazing, we love it. And
Yeah. You do.
and I'm like with the band and like these three women like in bikinis, and I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know. Like I never thought it would get here. I don't know how the fuck we got here.
So that was the second album, and then we had to wait a little bit
Yeah,
for a new release.
I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, it's like not I think like personally, like I wanted to be one of those like put a record out every 2 years.
hmm,
And then obviously like that's not the trajectory that my life took, but I had some bigger fish to fry.
yeah,
Like I walked the path I walked.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like because I look back and I'm like, oh shit, like that was like someone on YouTube today was like, this song came out 7 years ago, and I was like, oh fuck, like,
yeah.
but then I'm like, fuck it, doesn't matter, like whatever.
So 3 months ago, you released a new EP. You released that one as an independent artist, right?
Mhm.
You created a Patreon um, page. How has the experience been so far with Patreon?
Oh, with Patreon?
Yeah,
Oh man, I was so scared to launch it. It was like this. I finished it, and then it took me like a month to actually like work up the courage to like launch it
Mm.
because I just had so much anxiety about it and so much fear. But like it's been like the honestly like it's the first time I've actually made money like consistently with music like ever.
Mm.
And it's like that like makes me want to cry a little bit, you know, but I was always just like such in a creative bent of like, oh, it's like about creativity and like fuck money. And then like I got to a point where I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
So it's like that, I mean, that's been nice. And also just like connecting with people. Like that's been the most amazing part too, is just like I did a like this is amazing, like just getting to know because I love people, like I love humans, like I love talking to them and hearing their stories and connecting with people. And um we've done a couple like monthly hangs with people,
Yep.
and it's been really rewarding and like really just inspiring to just be with people
Yeah.
and to have them ask questions, to have me talk about creativity or the process or like the songs and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like it's just been really cool.
You just mentioned the acoustic album. So
Yeah,
that one is coming out tomorrow, you said?
tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
I did that with Jim Kaufman, and I love it. I love the entire process because it was the first thing I did independently. And he's like, Kyle, I got 3 days. Like, let's knock it out. Or maybe it might have been 2 days. I mean, we did that entire record in probably 2 or 3 days. And then a week later he mixed it. And then like a week after that, it got mastered. And I was like, holy shit, like we just made a record in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
3 weeks, you know? And like, that's how it felt like when I was making records when I was 18 or 19. I'm just like that freedom of like, don't overthink it. Just show up. Just get it out.
Don't stop playing electric though.
No, 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 I'm not. Like, we just finished a record today. We just finished mixes for it, and it's like banger town. It's just
Right, you,
like
you finished yet another record.
such,
Yeah.
it's such a big rock record. It's just undeniable. Like fucking every song is there's like no slow songs on it. It's all banger town. I have another record that I finished, and it's going to be called Suicidal in Paradise, and it's like 8 or 9 songs, and I did everything here. And
Right.
it took me, sorry, I'm burping, total opposite experience because I wanted to do everything myself. I wanted to learn everything.
Mm.
I wanted to learn how to produce, and it was fucking brutal. And I was full blown depressed, so like just not even wanting to be alive on this planet. And I was like, oh, I can make a record. That's a good idea. And it took me like it was fucking awful, like brutal, like 2 years of like trying to make a record but like not being able to do it just because like the brain fog was so severe I couldn't think clearly.
Mm.
And it's hard to make a record when you're depressed because you go to the hi-hat and you're like, is this right for the song? And then you're like, why am I doing this? Like this is everything's terrible. I'm terrible. Like go kill yourself. Like I'm fat and ugly and broke and at my parents' house and like, oh my God, I fucked my life up. Why did I break my band up? Like, oh, just like spiraling out of anxiety every time you sit down and create. And it's fucking brutal doing that. So it's like I could easily be the guy who's just like, I make records in 2 days and look, it's just that, but I've had the opposite where
Yeah.
like you get so lost in a project. Like there's one song where I spent so much fucking time on, and then I was just like, this is trash. Like it's no one's gonna hear it. It's a demo. It's not even good enough. And there's a lot of songs like that where like for a while I was just like writing, and I think a lot of it had to do with depression. A lot of it had to do with feeling like I wasn't in control of my creativity, feeling like I what I liked I couldn't release. Like that was a lot of it too. And then finally, like I think 2019 winter, I finally was like, oh, I know how to do this now. Like I know how to make records. I know how to make like, I know how to make it sound like how I want. Like I know how to like record things properly. Like have, because it's like I basically was like trying to learn a new craft, like while debilitated mental health wise, and I don't recommend it to anybody because I think what took me 2 years probably would have taken me like 6 months, like if I was like healthy, but
Yeah.
that was the path I walked, like whatever. So yeah, so I finished a record. It's called Suicidal in Paradise. Like I fucking love it because it's like it's all electronic drums. It's like Run the Jewels. It's like it's like heavy but like cool and like vibey, and there's like guitar riffs over drum machines, and like it's the record that like I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
It's the record that like no one else, I couldn't find, so I was like, this is what this is. And it's cool because it almost echoes like the Orthodox sentiment where it's like there's like a heavy song into like a slower song into like an acoustic song that's beautiful. So like I'm like stoked as hell on that.
Are you looking forward playing in front of an audience again?
I am. You know what the weird thing, Nicholas, is like this is like the weird thing. And I don't know if it's like getting older, but like when I was younger, I wasn't afraid of anything. I think I was like too dumb to be afraid of anything. And I was just like it was almost like courage because I was too stupid to know better. But we fucking did a bunch of rad shit. And it was also courage with no stable grounding, if that makes sense. Like there was no foundation.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's like I got older and like took a step back and like went in, and it's like putting a solo song out last year was like it was like fucking terrifying. And I was like, what? Like, and like even the Patreon was terrifying. And I was talking to my therapist about this yesterday because I was like, you know, like I was talking to an agent. He's like, I'm ready to work. Like I'm ready to book shows, like festivals for next year. And I was like, but then I was like, bro, this is the same fucking fear. You'll be fine. Like who fucking knows? You know, it's like, just show up and see how it'll be. And like, yeah, so I'm like, I'm really, and it's like, I think it's one of those things where like I forget the energy of being with the band and like being on stage and like the feeling of that. And like, I also forget that like I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Like I just forget about that because I don't go around being like, I'm fucking great on stage and I play guitar and fuck things, you know. It's just out of my mind when I'm just like doing whatever I'm doing. So like I am excited to like be in front of people and like play shows. And like here's the thing too, like it's like I am excited. Here's why I'm excited to play shows. Here's why I'm excited to do all this shit is because I'm such a different person than the last time we ever toured. Like the last time we toured, I was depressed, I was anxious, I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I wasn't happy. I was like, I didn't care about connection. I was just trying to get famous. I was like using touring as a means to get something else instead of actually enjoying it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like the band shit was so fucking stressful for me. So now I'm just like, I met these guys I love, like they're amazing. And I'm like, care about them as like brothers, and like they're just like the best people. And like I'm in a better, like I'm fully planted in this world now and like ready to see what's next and like ready to enjoy the ride. And like shows are like it's crazy because like I've had to revisit so many of these things coming out of depression where like it's basically like rewriting the story. So like shows are one of those where I'm like, cool, you get to do this again. And it's gonna be like the first time, but like you also have like all this experience after, you know. So it'll be fine. It's like riding a bike, you know, like the first one will probably just be like, what? But then like, you know, the more we do, it'll be good. So I don't know what the fuck could happen. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I for one, I'm really hoping to see you soon on stage because it's been too long. Great. So to wrap this up, I want to ask you if you would make the honor of playing something for us, for all the viewers.
All right. This song's called "Losing My Influence." I scroll, the less I feel like I ever deserved to be real. I used to dream when I was alone, but now I sit and worship at my phone. Sometimes it feels like I'm losing my influence, but I don't care. Today I'll sit back and run with the clouds and know it ain't better somewhere else in here. Things to do for 100 likes make me wanna bleach out my own mind of where our stalks moving all around, so no one wants to hold you when you're down. Sometimes it feels like I'm losing my influence, but I don't care. Today I'll sit back and run with the clouds and know it ain't better somewhere else in here. I don't mean to intrude. Could you put down your phone when I make love to you? I've only got one life and I won't give another heartbeat to this drive. Sometimes it feels like I'm losing my influence, but I don't care. Today I'll sit back and run with the clouds and know it ain't better somewhere else in here.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
I had never heard that song before. Is it
Yeah, I
going to
think
be
I've
on?
heard it. I think you're the first to hear it online.
Amazing. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for that.
Yeah.
Is it going to be on one of the coming records? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great day. I know
Yeah, you too.
it's early afternoon for you. It's almost midnight here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And yep. Best wishes for the coming records.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Appreciate you. Thanks for being so thoughtful and kind.
Cheers.